Alrighty, y'all. Last lesson of the semester, right? So this is for 5th and 6th period today. Again, I am out because I've got me and Mrs. Mass have an appointment, but that's all right. So make sure that you're writing what I write down and you're paying close attention on watching this full video. This is going to be a longer one in comparison to all of our other ones. So just make sure you watch the whole thing, okay? For 5th period, Coach Stram should be in there. 6th period, you're just going to have a sub. So make sure if you have any questions, send me a message or send me an email, okay? All right, so for our warm-up, okay, our warm-up here, I'm going to try to do my best to keep this right underneath the screen. For our warm-up here, okay, since these both do not have a square root sign, what I'm going to do here, I cannot immediately divide. So I'm going to break down this 300. This 300 will break into 103, leaving it over 5. Remember, since we cannot get rid of this yet, that 5 has to trickle along, has to tag along as that third wheel. Okay, so then from here, we're going to simplify one of these two. 100 is on my perfect squares list, so I'm going to leave it as, or the square root of 100 reduces down to just 10 root 3 over 5. Okay, now something we need to look at here now that we can see that there's two things that are outside without a square root, we can simplify those, okay? 10 divided by 5 gets me 2, and I bring my square root 3 over, again, tagging along like that 5 was a while ago. And that's my answer, okay? All right, so what we're going to do today is we're still going to do special right triangles like we did Wednesday or last Wednesday, but today we should not get decimals, okay? What we're going to get today is either whole numbers and radicals, just radicals, fractions. We're going to get lots of things other than decimals, okay? Just like yesterday, if we got like a fraction here, we want to change that to, or if we got a fraction here, put this in, reduce it, and it was a decimal, we want to make sure that we put that into decimals, click our blue button, and leave it as a fraction, okay? So our same rules still apply. For a 45, 45, 90, if you have A or B, multiply by root 2 to get C. If you have C, divide by root 2 to get A or B. Same thing. Okay, remember, A and B, these can flip-flop in a 45, 45, 90 because they are equal. C is always across from our box. Okay, whereas a 30, 60, 90, C is still across from our box, but remember, A is always our shorter side and B is our longer side. Okay, and then remember our rules. Our rules is that we need to first make sure we know what triangle rules we're going off of, whether there's a 30, 60, 90 or a 45, 45, 90. Okay, we want to label up our triangle and then we want to find our rule and go from there. Okay, all right, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, see if I can do this without messing it up. There we go. Okay, so first, remember, if there's nothing on the inside, we know that it is automatically a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Okay, so then I know I'm going to go off of these rules up here, but now I need to label. I need to make sure I know what side is what, right? Okay, I like to label C first. You don't have to label C first, whatever you want to label. Okay. C is my X, and then I'm going to label this as A, and this one as B. Okay, remember, if there is nothing there, you do not need it. I'm going to get rid of my B, all right? So now remember, your little hint here was what you're given, and you're going to your X, okay? My given side is A, and I'm going to C. So now that means I'm going to go up here to my rules. I'm going from A or B, and I'm going to go to C. I'm going to multiply by root 2. So now this is where it's different. Okay, my A, and I'm going to multiply by the square root of 2. Again, last week we put this straight into Desmos, and we got a decimal. That's not what we want to do today. We want to take the rules that we've learned over the past couple days, the dividing radicals, multiplying radicals, there we go. We want to put that into play here, okay? So here, remember with multiplying radicals, you want to multiply your insides together and multiply your outsides together. Well, we can see both of these don't share anything in common, okay? So here, if they don't share anything in common, stick them together. 10 times root 2 is 10 root 2, and that's your answer, okay? Making sure that we type it into Desmos exactly like that, okay? All right, so now we're going to move on to our second example here. Okay, but now look at how our second example is different. This one's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Okay, so remember with this one, A and B matter where they go. So make sure you're labeling it as so. Okay, so with this one, again, I personally like to label C first. That is my personal opinion. You do whatever you want to do. Do what works for you. I don't care. Okay, then from here, remember, A is your shorter side, B is your longer side. Just by looking at it, I can tell this is my shorter side and this is my longer side. Okay, now of these, I do not need C. There is nothing there. Okay, there's nothing there on C. All right, so then from here, I know I'm starting at A and I'm going to B. So now I'm going to come up here to my 30, 60, 90 rules. If you have A, we're going to B. We're going to multiply by root 3 to get B. Okay, so now look how this one's different than the last one. Even though, yes, this is still a different problem, here we're taking our A, which was root 12, and we're going to multiply it by root 3. Now look what these have in common. They both have roots. So what we can do here is we can multiply 12 times 3 to get the square root of 36. Okay, so guys, remember in this part, we're only multiplying the numbers. Okay, do not put that square root into Desmos until you have a final answer down here. Okay, because what's nice about this one is if you look on your perfect squares list from last Thursday, the square root of 36 is 6, and you're good to go. Okay, all right, on to my next one. Remember your markings right here. Again, if these are equal, that means it's a 45, 45, 90. Okay, labeling up my sides as always. We got C is equal here. I'm going to label this as A. Actually, let's do B since we did A last time. Okay, let's label this as A, this one as B. Okay, so now I'm going from C and I'm going to try to get to B. Okay, so I'm going to go up here to my rules. If you have C, you're going to divide by root 2 to get A or B. Okay, and just like the last one, what's nice about this one is once I write it down here, we're going to see that they share a square root in common. So I'm going to keep that square root and I'm just going to divide my numbers like so. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Bring down my square root. And lastly, again, once I get here, I need to make sure that this can or cannot simplify. Okay? Once I get here, I can see it's not going to simplify. The only root that's going to go into this perfectly is 1. Okay? And that's not going to accomplish anything for me. Okay? All right. I'm going to flip it over. No, I'm not. I'm going to pull out my other sheet of notes. There we go. Okay. All right, couple more examples for us. Yes, again, this is a longer lesson, but there are a couple of these that get a little crazy, and I want to make sure that you understand them. Okay, remember our last example from yesterday, the one that was telling you, hey, what do you do when you have this root on the bottom? We're going to see that here in just a minute. Okay, all right, so I'm going to pull this up here. I'm going to go ahead and label. We've got C. A is my shorter side, B is my longer side, because this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Okay. So now I'm going from C to get to A. I do not care about B. Okay. So if I'm going from C to A, I'm going to divide by 2 to get A. So now check this one out. This one's a little funky. Okay. So I got 8, square root of 8 divided by 2. Okay. Now, a lot of us may think we're done, but we are not. Okay. Because yes, these don't share a root in common, but your next thing to check, once you get at a stopping spot, always check your root. Check this to see if it can simplify at all. Okay, because whenever we check to see if it can simplify, I'm going to bring down my 2. This guy can break down into root 4 and root 2. Because we can say 4 times 2 is 8. And then from there, that root 4 reduces down to just 2. Root 2 over 2. And then remember, your last step. Check this bottom guy. Does he have a buddy? Does he have a buddy that's outside as well? Okay, which he does. Let me get my highlighter right here so y'all can see that. Okay, all those other steps up until now, it did not have a buddy. Now it has a buddy. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And we bring over our root 2 because we cannot touch it because there's no other square root to go with it. Okay. So again, the last 2 days, dividing radicals, multiplying radicals has been very helpful to us, hopefully. okay, for those of us that have been doing our work. Okay. All right, another 30, 60, 90 right here. Okay, I tried to put a bunch of examples in here that were different sides with different rules. That way we can see a bunch of examples of each. So if you never know what to do, most likely there's an example in your notes. Okay, so be sure to check those. Okay, A right here, B right here. Okay, we have B, we're going to A. All right, for my rule from going from B to A is I'm going to divide by the square root of 3. So check this one out. 1 divided by the square root of 3. So this is like that last example that we saw yesterday. Okay? You cannot, I repeat, you cannot have a square root on the bottom. Okay? Because if we look at this, this doesn't reduce. 1 can't divide by anything down here. Square root of 3 can't simplify at all. So remember what we do. We take that bottom, whatever it is, and we're going to multiply the top and the bottom, by that same square root. That's supposed to be a 3 right there, y'all. Root of 3 over the square root of 3. So now we've got a fraction and a fraction, and we want to multiply straight across here. Okay, just like on the front, if you have a number and a root, stick them together. 1 square root of 3. Whereas down on the bottom, these are sharing a square root here. Okay, so since they're sharing our square root, we're going to multiply 3 times 3. Bring this down here. 1 root 3 on top. 3 times 3 gets me the square root of 9. Now, if you know you did this right, how you know you did this right is down here should be a perfect square. If you look on your perfect squares chart, the square root of 9 is 3. 1 root 3 all over 3, like so. Okay. Not too bad, not too bad. Okay. All right, sliding over to the next one. As you can see, 30, 60, 90s have a lot more rules than the 45, 45, so that's why there's a lot more of these on here. So, again, I'm wanting y'all to see a bunch of examples. Okay. All right, so I've got my C right here. A is my shorter side, B is my longer side. I'm going to go ahead and cross that one out. Here, I'm going from B to C. And my rule from B to C is if you take your side, we're going to multiply it by 2 over square root of 3. Okay? So now check how this one's different. Okay? How this one's different than the other ones is there's nothing underneath the square root of 6. If you are multiplying a number times a fraction that has a top and a bottom, make this guy a fraction by putting it over 1. Just a normal old 1. Do not put it with a square root. Leave it as a normal 1. Okay? Then from here, do it like we were doing. Okay, multiply straight across. Now, whenever you rewrite, make sure that your number that doesn't have a square root is on the outside. Okay, not on the outside. We write that first. Okay, square root of 6 and 2 don't have anything in common, so we're going to rewrite this as 2 root 6. And then on the bottom, we've got 1 root 3. Okay, so now what's nice about this is you got some pairs. You got 2 things on the outside and 2 things on the insides. Okay, so now I'm going to do my outsides divided by my outsides, my insides divided by my insides. 2 divided by 1 is just 2. 6 divided by 3 is 2. And remember, we want to leave that underneath the square root sign. Do not, I repeat, do not put, if you don't know what 6 divided by 3 is, just put it in there as that without the square root sign. You should not be putting any square root signs into Desmos today, just numbers. Okay? All right, on my next one right here. Looking at this guy, we got C. A is my bottom side, B is my longer side. Okay, because with this is again 30, 60, 90. We can get rid of A. Now this one I'm going from C to B. I have C, which is 4. And my rule to get from C to B is I'm going to multiply by the square root of 3 over 2. Okay, just like the last one. See how this is a normal old 4 and you got a fraction over here? Put this 4 over 1, so that will help you. Okay, we're going to multiply straight across. These don't have anything in common, so we stick them together. 4 square root of 3 over 2 times 1 is just 2. Okay? And then what's nice about this problem, again, we need to pay attention to our signs. Signs versus no signs. Outsides versus insides. Those are both on the outside, so I can do 4 divided by 2, which gets me 2. and I'm going to bring over my square root of 3. Okay, not too bad, y'all. All right, 2 more, almost done. All right, we got C right here, A on the side, B here. Get rid of A, we do not need it. This is another C to B, just like before, so we're gonna use the same rule, but look how your starting number is. Instead of your starting number being a number, you've got a square root. So we're still gonna do square root of 3 over 2, but now we're starting out with a square. Putting this over 1. Okay, multiply straight across. These both have roots. So I'm gonna do the square root of 3 times 5 over 2, because 2 times 1 is just 2. That gets me the square root of 15 over 2. And again, once you get stopped, once you get a simplified radical, check this guy. See if it can or cannot reduce, okay? If I try the square root of 9, 9 won't go into 15, and 4 won't go into 15 evenly. So we are just done. Square root of 15 over 2, okay? All right, last one, y'all, last one. Okay, another 30, 60, 90. We got B longer side. C across from our box. A we don't need. Okay, we're going from B to C on this one, just like we did up here on this example. But again, the difference here is root versus just whole number. Okay, so we got 2 times 2 over root 3. We want to put that first 2 over 1 to make sure it's a fraction. That matches our other side. Multiply straight across. 2 times 2 is 4. And then we've got 1 root 3. Okay? Now, we don't necessarily need this one right here, because 1 root 3 and root 3 are the same exact thing. But if you want to do it like that, we can say, all right, I've got 4 over 1 root 3. We're going to leave the 4 up top. Okay, that 1 cancels out, leaving just us with root 3. Okay, and just like our example up here, you cannot have a root on the bottom. Get rid of it by multiplying the top and the bottom times the square root of 3. Okay, we stick these together because they both do not share a root in common. Whereas the bottom, they both share a root, so we're going to do 3 times 3 and keep our root, which is 9, and simplify it. 4 square root of 3. And then the square root of 9 from our perfect squares chart is 3. 4 doesn't go into 3, so we leave it just like that. Okay? All right, again, so make sure that you copy down your notes. I am taking this as a grade, so make sure you copy that down, watch the video, got your homework done. We're jumping straight into a review on Wednesday, test on Thursday, test corrections on Friday. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow.